Once you're done with all the splitting parts, now we can go ahead and give a roof a proper thickness. So you can select the inner surfaces and you can give it a thickness of 0.65. So you can select the inner surfaces and type in offset surface, which is offset SRF. You can click on that. You can check the direction and make sure it's in the Z axis, it's in the Z direction, and you can change the distance to 0.75. Press enter, and you can press enter when you're done. You can press enter once again and wait for the offset surface to happen. Once it does, now we have to understand that we have created an offset of 0.75 because we'll also offset our shading devices by a distance of 0.1, which makes the roof be 0.65 meters thick. So we can now select our shading devices and we can offset them by a distance of 0.1. We can press enter. You can just wait for them to offset. Once they offset, it looks something like this. So once you are done with the offsets, now all you need to do is create offsets for these internal strips that we just created. You can select, zoom in, and you can select the internal strips. It will actually be easier to select the internal strips from the underside of the roof. Hold on shift and you can select the internal strips, and once you are done selecting the internal strips, you can again type offset surface, and this time you can also give it a distance of 0.75 like we did in the first case, and press enter. Press enter once again. You can just wait for the offset to happen. Now you can see that the surface is clearly offsetted into these three parts. Now we have a clear roof definition and it looks like the roof that we saw in the picture earlier. You have these three shading devices on the three sides, and you have the roof geometry which has edges like this, and it has the soil layer over here inside. That's the roof geometry, and now you can actually turn on all the other layers to see how the entire thing looks like. Let's turn on the walls. You can also turn it on by showing all the objects. So you can just type show in the command bar and press enter, and all the hidden objects will be shown. Let's turn off these external layers that we have. Let's turn them off. You can either hide them like this, or you can simply click on the external layer and just hide it like this. Now as you can see, we have a proper roof geometry like this, and we also have the wall geometry inside. Now we can add a little bit of detail to the form that we have created of the Villa Ypsilon. So we'll be making one part of the curtain wall on this particular face, and we'll understand how do we proceed with this kind of geometry over here. So let's try turning off the roof by turning off the layer from over here. You can just click on this icon and turn off the roof layer, and you can also turn off these extra curves that you have. So you can move into your all curves layer by double clicking on it, and you can turn off the default layer so that all the extra curves are hidden. And now you can keep the walls on. You can keep the layer that says walls, you can keep it on, and you can also turn on the amenities, and you can also turn on the extra and the floors. That looks about right. And you can also turn on your plinth so that we have a little bit of clarity of what we are working with. You can clearly see that the plinth should be located a little bit below on the edge of the wall. So let us select the plinth and push it down. But before doing that, you can also turn on the base surfaces. and we can select both of the base surfaces and the plinth and push them down. So as you can see, the plinth poly surfaces are like this, and we have the base surfaces on the bottom in this particular way. So what we can do is we can select both the base surfaces and the plinth, and we can push them down. So we can select the plinth by right clicking on the plinth layer and selecting select objects, and now we can type in move the command line and pressing enter, and we can move our plinth down from this particular point to this particular point. So we can select the point like this, we can move it down to this particular point like this. So once you have moved down the plinth layer, you can also move down the base surfaces layer if you want to, but now that we can see that the base surface has automatically come on the top, so you don't really need to move that down anymore, but the plinth looks to be in a proper place right now. So once the plinth is in the proper place, you can actually turn the plinth off and just work with the base surfaces for now. So now what you can actually do is you can create the curtain wall over here. So in order to proceed with the curtain wall geometry, let's turn on the construction geometry by clicking on this, and as we can see over here, the construction geometry has a clear indication of how we'll proceed with the curtain wall layer. So previously we had created the arc systems on all the three sides, and we had projected the arcs on all the three faces to create this kind of a form. So in a similar manner, we'll create another layer of construction geometry that will allow us to create a curtain wall of a particular shape on this particular face. So let's begin, and you can turn off the construction geometry layer, and you can go in your plan or in your top view. You can zoom in. The first thing, now we need to understand that the curtain wall will be ranging from this particular end to this particular end. So we can create a new layer over here. So you can close the all curves layer so that the sub layer is turned off, and you can create a new layer from over this icon, and you can name it construction 2 and just press enter. You can turn this layer on. Now you can create lines from over this particular end this fashion, and just make sure that the ortho is on so that the lines are created straight, and you can create a similar line from this end up to here. Now in order to make sure that the line reaches the same distance as this particular line, you can just move your mouse and snap and drag it back in this particular manner, and the line will automatically snap at the intersection. You can just click and press enter. So you have two lines in this manner over here, and you can again create one more line like this on this face. And now let's go back into our perspective view and understand how do we create the shape of the curtain wall that we want over here. So let's select this particular edge, and let's type in extrude, and we can use the extrude curve command. You can click on it and you can extrude it up to a distance of 3 meters. So you can just type in 3 and press enter. Once you have extruded it, we can create a similar curtain wall geometry on this particular planar surface and project it on to this surface so that it intersects both the faces that we have over here. So let's try creating a curtain wall geometry on this particular surface. So according to the picture, the geometry goes something like this. So we'll try creating that. So you can actually select point over here. The random point you can select over here. You can actually snap the point somewhere over here, and we can try the same thing this particular end. But before doing that, let's create the geometry on one particular side, and how about we mirror it on the other side. And now let's create another line from the midpoint of the top part over here, and let's join it in this particular edge like this and press enter. So once you do that, now we can type in fillet and press enter, and let the radius be somewhere between 1.5, and let's select the first curve and the second curve and see what happens. So as you can see, the fillet distance is a little too much, so we can use Ctrl Z and go back. We can try typing fillet again, and this time let the radius be 0.1 and press enter, and use the same thing. This time you can see the radius is a little bit too small, so we can keep trying unless and until we get the perfect shape that we need. You can just press enter so that the command repeats itself. You can change the radius from 0.1 to 0.35. And as you can see that the curve is a little bit better now. Now you can mirror this entire curve onto the other side. So you can just select the curve and type in mirror, press enter. Now to give it a proper mirror plane, we can go in the front view. So you can go out of your perspective view and you can go in the front view, and you can turn on the front view to shaded so that we can understand what is going on, and we can go into the front view. We can give it a mirror plane from this axis to this axis like this. So once you have given it a mirror plane in this particular fashion, you can go back into your perspective, and now you can try filleting both these curves in the similar way that we have just filleted these two curves. So you can type in fillet once again and press enter, and let the radius be 0.35, and you can select these two curves. But as you can see, the fillet is really less, so we can turn on the radius a little bit more. You can use Ctrl Z, and this time you can fillet up to a distance of 0.65 and press enter. Now you can select your first and your second curves. Alright, this distance is also a little too less, so let's keep on trying. Let's turn the radius to 1.5 and press enter. So the radius is above 1 work better. Let's use Ctrl Z and use another radius this time. So let's try a radius of 5 and see what happens. This radius has given us a satisfactory curve. So once this entire thing is done, what we can do is we can now project this entire part back onto this surface and split it up. So we can select this entire curve like this, and you can type in project, and you can select this particular surface project. But in this case, if you select this whole surface, this particular curve will be projected in the inner walls as well. So before projecting it, we can isolate this part of our surface. So you can select the walls and you can type explode. As you can see, the wall has been exploded into these many parts. So you can select the part that you want to actually project your curve onto. You can select this part, you can select this part, and once you are done selecting, you can actually group them by typing in group in the command line. Now you can type project, press enter, and you can select the curve that you want to project and press enter once again. And now it is asking for the surfaces and the poly surfaces, but before selecting that, you can just change the direction from C plane Z to custom, and after that you can select the particular group that you just created and you can press enter. Now it will ask you for the projection direction, and you can repeat the same thing that we did the last time. You can give it a direction using these construction curves that you just made. So once you do that, as you can notice, we have successfully projected our curves on these particular surfaces. So once you have done that, you can now zoom in and we can now loft these two particular curves. So you can select these two curves like this and you can loft them and press enter, and you can hit OK. So once you loft them, you can see that they have already been lofted, as you can see from the inside geometry. And now we would split up our external walls using this lofted surface. So you can type split and press enter, and you can select the group of walls that you want to split and press enter once again. And for the cutting objects, you can select the lofted geometry and press enter once again. So now that you can see that we have split up our wall geometry very precisely, and now you can ungroup your wall, select the group and type ungroup and press enter once again. The walls will be ungrouped and you can delete these particular faces in this manner. So once you have deleted these faces, you can now turn off the base surfaces layer to get a clear understanding of what has just been created. And now since the curtain wall has been clearly made over here, you can use Ctrl Z and bring back one of these walls, one of the surfaces. And what we can actually do is we can move this particular surface on the center so that we can create the curtain wall. So you can move this particular surface by typing in move in the command line, and you can bring it from this point to this particular point, and this particular surface can act as the curtain wall of this particular side of the structure. So now let's turn off the base surfaces. So you can select everything that you have over here like this, and you can select your all curves layer, and you can select walls, and you can right click on it and you can select change object layer. Once you do that, everything will be turned into the wall layer. And after you do that, now we can easily turn off the construction 2 layer. So you can go inside your walls layer by double clicking on it, and you can turn off the construction 2 layer because we no longer need that.